Two, and she only has Isaac and her name up there. All the trustees' names, where's the supervisor? Only two people that work there.
Okay, we are recording at this point.
It's 7 o'clock. I mean, I'm doing more talking, so I have mine off, it's up to you.
Just asking.
Do you want to do this first part? Okay, I call the meeting, committee of a whole at 7 o'clock tonight.
Okay, pursuant to the governor's executive orders, this meeting will be held via audio and video conference to allow for both in-person and remote participation. Please note that by joining the meeting by video or audio conference, your name, image, or phone number may be visible in whole or in part to others participating in this meeting.
Travis, will you please lead us?
Sure.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Be right back.
Just gonna have some. Roll call.
Supervisor Bauman, trustee Dobrow,
Here.
trustee Kirby, trustee LaFredo, trustee Repa,
Here.
finance chair Solano,
Present.
vice chair Haley. Second, member Jersey.
Here.
Member Schultz,
Here.
member Francisco. She's here by chat, having problems with her microphone.
Take care of, okay.
We have a quorum.
Do we have any public comment tonight?
She'll be here in just a minute.
Okay. So under new business, 1, discussion and presentation of the 2022-2023 annual budget requests. Tonight, we are going to start off with assessor presentation. Ms. Stinnett?
I'm going to share my screen so that people who are remote can see the same content that you're going to be discussing.
Does it have to be close enough for the sound? I want to make
It
sure
should
that
be
they.
fine. I have a microphone down here
Okay.
pointing out.
I'll talk loud. Okay, obviously I'm Chris Ditton, the assessor. Goodbye. And so we're here to talk about some of my budget. So let me just start out by saying, give you a little background. So I think most everybody sort of familiar with the office, but again, so the assessor's office is charged with assessing or evaluating all property within its jurisdiction. And there's a general reassessment year that's once every 4 years. And then there's what we call equalization, which is in between the general assessment years. There's equalization, which is by neighborhood. So you take the last 3 years of sales and you are valuing those neighborhoods. The goal there is if the neighborhood is under roughly 31 and a half, so we call it sales ratio. So let me back up. So there's a sales ratio. So you should be at 33 and a third. Okay, that's the goal. But the state recognizes that there's a range in which you may fall. And so if you're between roughly 31 and a half or so, or 31 and a third, and 35 and a third, then under the statute, you're considered to be, I guess, okay, or appropriately assessed that you're not supposed to change that. But if you fall above or below that, then the assessor has the obligation then to reassess those neighborhoods.
Sorry to interrupt. Can anyone hear me? We're picking up.
Go ahead and try again, Chris. Better.
So. Yes, yes.
Go ahead.
So,
We're getting pretty bad.
those are the, so that's the big function. I mean, now, so that gives you kind of, I mean, there's many other things that we do, and if you want more information, then, one of my, you know, staff employees can go into that. So if you want, they'll be happy to do that, but I'm just trying to give you like an overview kind of right now. All right, so the other, I guess, facts that you probably should know, which kind of help you, I think, in, you know, understanding where we've been. And that is, so the office, you know, back in, you know, before 17, we had, well, we had 3 people in the office. We had 3 employees since, say, 17. And so that was an okay number, 3 people. We were able to handle, you know, our job, but you know, we were busy with getting to the front desk and, you know, handling people coming in and phone calls. So that would take us away from you know, doing the other assessing matters that we were handling. So so coming into 19, which was the quad year, then I'd come before the board in 2019 and obtained funding for a part-time individual. That was Jessica, and so she was at the front. We had her there, and she was able to interact with the people coming in, help with the exemptions, answer their questions, whatever it might be. And then when they had appeals, she was answering those types of questions. Obviously, if there was, we needed to assist, we would. But she would kind of, so she was taking the burden off of you know, the rest of us in order to handle the appeals, handle the assessment, get them all done. So after 19, you know, so after 19, I had said to the board, I talked to the individually and said, and I'd really like this person to stay on. I'd like her to maintain her position because she's helping, you know, the assessor's office. And so we had an agreement. Okay, so she stayed on, and June of 20, then we brought her on full-time as an hourly employee. So she had 30 hours then, and Jessica was then full-time, but hourly. And then a year later, I believe in 21, she came on full-time at the normal, you know, salary. So the other thing that I want to point out is that in 2019, we had roughly 1,250 appeals, assessment appeals. Generally, you know, when you're looking at the appeals, that kind of gives you an idea of how, you know, you're assessing overall. I mean, that's less than obviously 1% of the 25,000 parcels back then. So less than 1% were appealing, but it still gives you an idea. So, but in 2020, once we had Jessica in part-time and we were moving along, we had 990 appeals in 20, which was the first time that we'd been below 1,000 since I've been here, and I think even before that. So again, kind of tracking, giving you an idea of, now we've got a group in place, we're working, we're getting issues that may have been out there in terms of, people having, garages that were demoed that hadn't been taken off, or basements and whatever. So we were getting all that kind of worked out. And so now we were down to about 990. So last year, we actually fell to 675 appeals, which is, that's great. So we made progress. And my point is that when, with the staff in place, with the right people there, we're able to continue and lower assessments, which again, you never know what's going to happen in the future, right? But I think that is again, a good indication that, more people are at least okay, grudgingly maybe, with their assessments, but they understand that, okay, that's probably where that should be. So I'm just trying to give you, a little bit of a, background there, just to kind of idea of how the offices work, why why we need the people that we have, rather. And so that kind of bring into then the budget. So the budget for this year has a couple of areas that are, I don't know, significantly, but they're increased. Maybe it is significant, but they're increased. And the first area that we see right away on the budget is the salary. And so that's the area that's obviously the biggest increase. And so what I want to explain is how that comes about and what we did. So I emailed everybody today, and I don't know if everybody got it. I hope so before, but emailed you a modified spreadsheet of our analysis. What we did a salary analysis. Yeah, there we go. Thank you. So we did a salary analysis with the other townships, and one of them part-time, so they don't really count. So we're looking at full-time. So what we're doing is trying to find, looking at full-time townships. And what I was trying to get at here was to show everybody, breaking it down by years of experience, what the sort of the average salary is for somebody with a CIO, and then somebody without a CIO. So, just see kind of, just see where we fall, where everybody else falls within the township. And so with that in mind, the biggest part of my salary increase, which I believe is roughly 11,000, is for Jessica. And so right now, and again, we brought her on, and we had a limited amount of funding. So right now she's at 31,500, somewhere, right in that area, for her salary. And so what I wanted to show was, okay, so what do we have for, the 3-year, non-CIO? And again, certified Illinois assessing officers and technicians. So without that, talking kind of like introductory people. And so you can see that, the average is 48,208 for that. And there's just a couple of people here, obviously, for the recent hire. So a little bit, I suppose it could be a list of you, but it's 48,208. And then we have the list of people who a longer period of time. So obviously, somebody's 1997 and 2004. But again, just to give you an idea, those people obviously working longer, so they're they're 52,000, which makes sense. Much longer. So my goal with again with Jessica was to, obviously we're not coming to 48. So I know that. We understand where we are in terms of levy. So, yeah, not asking to be even the average, I'm asking to have somebody put down toward the low end, if you will. And really, well, somewhere between, 41.5 and 43 would be what I would be, what I'd be looking for. The other kind of issue that I have, and it's just the way things have worked out, but the other employee who's a non-CIO, Edwin, so he was hired at the same time, but he was full-time rather than part-time. And so he came in at 40, and then he's had a couple of COLA, cost of living increases. So one of the things I'm worried about, one of the things that I think we should be looking at, and I want to look at, is gender pay disparity. And, I don't think that, I know that's not right. I mean, it's not. It would fall into this situation where it just happened. And I don't like it, and I want to address it. And so one of the things that I really want to do is to try to get the salary increase so that we can get Jessica back, closer to, equity. And I just think that's, we've got the fund, I think that's fair. And so that's what I'd like to do there. The remaining part of the salary, so there's a couple, there's a 3% COLA for Edwin, cost of living, that's what I'm looking for. And then the other part of it is for Jamie and Cindy. And so they have their CIO, they've had it for a couple of years now. And so the other part of my spreadsheet, what I did was we took the CIOs, so those with the certified loan assessing officer. And, we've got one that's plus 17 years. That's obviously the high end, and we're not, just to show you, that's it. And then I looked for the, so 6 to 16 years. So Cindy's been there since 13, I believe. And Jamie's been in with us since 18, but he's been in the business since 06.
Mhm.
So he's been in the business obviously a long time. So my goal here was the 6 to 16 years to show, everybody, again, what the average was. And what I did was we obviously took the salary, we divided it by the number of hours that the township, where they came from, what they worked. And we got an hourly rate based on exactly how many hours. So some work 40, some work 38, some work 35, some work 33. So we got an hourly rate, and then we obviously applied it to what we work here, so obviously to make it accurate. And so what we have is 64,738 is the average for somebody 6 to 16 years CIO. Now again, fully understand, we've got the whole, the budgeting, the levying, all of that. And so we know we're not, I'm not asking, I asked for 64, but obviously far too high for us anyway. But what I am looking for is to try to get them close to or at 55,000. And so for Jamie, that would be an increase of be like 2,500 or so roughly for him, and then Cindy would be about 5,000. So again, about 7,500 or so roughly in salary for those two. So that's how the salary request breaks out. And again, the 190 through 5 is at low end. If we bring Jessica, if we can have the funds, we get her closer to 43, then obviously I would need to change that up to 195 or something like that. But anyway, whatever. But that's kind of where I am right now with that. Then the rest of that personnel services is essentially like the insurance was 10% of last year. So I think we're still working on.
Yeah, we got the numbers, but I haven't analyzed them yet, so I don't know what the increase, I told everyone to use a 10%. because that was the general discussion that, Benefit Partners told me without having the numbers yet, because every year it goes up for aging 1 year, and then there's just a typical rate increase. You probably know this, Evan, more than I, but, so they gave us the numbers, and I just haven't analyzed it based on if everyone stays in the same plan. But based on last year's numbers, it was close to a 9% increase.
And that's
So,
something Anne Marie and I are gonna.
yeah, I'll be working on that, this week.
So those numbers will eventually be, say, accurate, or they'll be the numbers that
We'll
they.
finalize them.
So, but that's just, where we are now. Then, FICA, I try to, use the number that, that Emery gave me, in terms of, the percentage, and then multiply by the 193.5. I tried to do it with IMRF. I think I'm a little off on IMRF. I
Yeah,
think
you're up, you're
that
up.
I had, I don't know if I used last year's number or, what, but again, that can be adjusted based on, what the final salary number is
25.
times that, what the actual rate is. So, I'm not really worried about that. That's how I came up with that. So that's personnel. Maintenance of equipment, I'm not asking for anything different in maintenance of equipment in terms of a change. Obviously, 250 for maintenance of equipment again, so if you're talking about, printers or something like that, if they need to have, work done on them, line issues
We
going
have
from the.
pretty
business,
bad
Okay,
printers
so,
right now.
so, yeah, so,
I'm pretty bad at computers, too old.
so that's, maintenance equipment, vehicle services, that's for the Jeep. So again, if there's, something comes up like, brakes or what, who knows? But oil changes, of course, would be, are in there too. So anyway, and that number hasn't changed from last year. And, that's kind of, it's one of those numbers where, maybe you don't use much from the year before, maybe you do. Actually, we actually used that because we had to get new tires. So the tires were,
Dry
were
rotting.
cracking, dry rotting because it's been outside for the last 4 years. So we were told, by mechanic, okay, we do that. So we did that. So actually we did use that. It just happened.
The other day, last week, last Friday.
So anyway, it's not reflected, maybe on the last sheet we have. But anyway, we did use that for the vehicle services. Professional services. So contract and accounting services, that's the way it's styled. What that line item is for is, when we have appeals, and we have, especially when we have, commercial, properties, when they have appealing, then sometimes it's useful and very helpful to have an appraiser, commercial appraiser, and we have one that we use. And actually, he's now the assessor in Deerfield, but he's still going to be doing appraisals on the side. And so what we do with that is we hire him to look at the appraisal for the commercial, and then give us some different comps or his opinion. And then it's been very helpful. We won, what was it last year, Burger King or somebody?
Yeah.
That he helped us with, and we won the appeal, so they didn't get the reduction. It helps everybody, because now we keep them, the commercial where they should be, which we believe where they should be. And then that helps everybody else out, because obviously if you lose value on commercial, you've got to make it up in residential. So, so that's what we use that for, and it's been helpful. And sometimes, we don't use much, but other times, we've got more appeals than commercial, and so we need. So, and that number's down a little bit from last year, a couple of $100, not much, but it is down a couple of $100. Data processing is the next one. That is for the, the email that we have, and Office 365, which we have to have with the county for the, to do our job, and so they have, what is that? SharePoint.
SharePoint.
And they use that to put things up on the SharePoint, videos and things like that we can access. So. So that is data processing. And then communications is postage. And I think I brought that up a little bit from last year.
Chris, not to interrupt you, that one software that I think Jamie and Cindy were using,
The one for the commercial.
is that in the
CoStar.
budget?
Yeah, that's
Is talking about CoStar.
about CoStar.
Oh.
No, that's not included in there.
That's not going in the budget, okay.
We didn't include that.
Okay.
Because we would only use it, during our appeal period time, and for the price of it, it's a little expensive.
Okay,
So we're trying to work something around with the other townships.
okay, I just wanted to make sure, because I know we talked about that, okay.
I mean, it'd be great to have, but it's expensive. And I don't know, given other things, there are probably others that are more pressing.
Okay,
But CoStar is like a listing commercial service and also has other information. I mean, it's very good. It gives you, commercial gives you sales by square foot for industrial buildings, for office. And so it can help you in terms of appeals and what somebody's asking for via square footage. But I think this year, we probably have some others that.
okay,
I get it. Postage is next one, that came up a little bit. Coming into the quad here, what we want to do this year especially is we send out some letters to those who have farms especially. And what we want to do is kind of talk to them in a letter form about, are they still farming? What are they farming? Are they still, is it still crops? Is it livestock? So is it bees? And then bees is the big one. And so with that, we want to get the certificate from the state, the apiary license, to show that they've been qualified by the state. And then we want to see how many hives they have, a certain amount you need for certain acreage. So we want to, so that's something that, that's why I've kind of increased that a little bit. We want to be able to get those out there this year and then, kind of dovetailing into the quad year. So making sure that we've got that information on hand, especially for next year also. Professional development, dues. So dues went up $100 and it's just due to the fact that IPAI went up a little bit and the Lake County Assessors Association increased theirs a little bit. So that's what the dues are for, Lake County Assessors Association and the IPAI for dues. Continuing education, and I increased that 3,100. And Adam and I had a little bit of email discussion about continuing education. And so one of the questions he asked me was, what do you need for or to maintain the certification? So as a CIO, you have to have 60 hours in a 4-year cycle. I'm sorry. So each class is generally 15 hours. So you're looking at, it could be one class a year to get there, or it could be say 2 and be done earlier or whatever. But that's the minimum, kind of like the floor. What you need to do is 60 hours. And then, I'm of the opinion that it's good to have continuing education. It's good to understand and learn more about the process, about the different topic areas. And so I'd like to have, and we've done it in the past, the CIO especially taking 2 classes. And so, like, for example, appeals. I think I mentioned that to you. So there's classes on appeals. And so you can learn, I don't know, maybe tricks of the trade, but those kinds of things where what's somebody looking, what's PTAB looking for, what generally the board's looking for that can help you be successful. And you can pick that up, obviously, if you're doing it, but I think it's also beneficial to have that kind of classroom knowledge too. So that's that. And then the other is that we've started, Edwin and Jessica, on the CIO certification track. And so they're gonna hopefully get, 2 classes in this year. And then, I have one, class for next year that's included in that. So again, so 2 for the, CIOs, myself, and then 1 for Jessica to maintain that, progress towards the CIO. Mileage is still 1150, that didn't change. Yeah, and it's, that one's again, kind of, I must say difficult, but sort of, off skewed a little bit because of COVID. So we haven't had to, we've driven down for the class, but we haven't done some of the other things that we would normally do. Like, for example, the TOI has a legislative day. And that's generally in April, could be May, but usually April, it's April this year. Where the township folks, assessor, supervisor, whoever, actually can go down to Springfield. They have a presentation for the day where they usually have a speaker. I think this year it's the House Speaker, Welch. So he's scheduled anyway to give a little bit of a talk. And then you have the ability then to go and talk to different legislators about bills. And so, I found we've had bills that have affected assessing in the last, COVID. 3 or 4 years ago, more especially. But exemption bills. One of the big things that I did with the help of Representative Yingling at the time was we went down and talked to the legislature about increasing the amount for the senior freeze from 55 to 65. And we had a number of people from Caroline down there with us. And we testified, that one we have to be actually testifying to before the committee, as revenue committee or something like that. So that's kind of, and so we've done that with sort of legislative day and going down. We've also talked about some other bills when I've been down there. So that's something that can be helpful to be able to talk. So my point in saying this is the 1150 hasn't changed. But, I don't want to think, oh, well, I hardly used any of it last year. And again, the COVID situation. So this year, I think as we move out of that, there's going to be more opportunity to probably, well, I know, again, they're planning on the topics day this year.
Mhm.
So, and I have to submit something, but I'd like to of that. So I know there's going to be some more of that. The per diem and lodging, I brought that down a little bit. And that's because, normally when we would go out of town down to Normal or to Peoria for a class, and it would be 2 days and an exam on Thursday, so you'd be staying Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. This year, as it happens, there's a seminar situation down in Normal, so it's only 2 days, it's Sunday, Monday, and we come back. And then the other class that we have sort of identified is that class is in Naperville. So, there's no hotel. You're here, you drive down and come back. So that's why that's a little bit less, is because we've taken out one of the hotels. Conferences and conventions, that's 100, and that stayed the same. And again, that's essentially used for topics day. That's $75, so that's what we've used it out of in the past. Telephone. So the telephone line is, I didn't even have any bills on it until just about a month ago or something, when I got, Anne Marie gave me the bill. So the prior administration never gave me anything, right? I have no idea. I had no say in the phone.
We had to
Nothing.
cancel.
But
we
it
had
was
to
like, hey,
cancel our
you're gonna
contract.
pay. So, I put 27, I think that's like half. And I don't, if you want to leave it there on my side, fine. I don't care. But I'm just saying that, up until a month ago, I didn't know anything about, and by the way, when I found out, we were able to contact the company and have them remove one of the lines because we were not using it. because they just put phones in everywhere and that's over, you're going to charge for it. So we're not using it. So we actually got a few dollars off, but we did get something. So again, the 27th is just my guess as to what's half, and maybe, that would be something that could be maybe more dialed down. Once, at the end of the year, if you would know maybe what it's gonna be
Well, it
next
should
year.
be
And so,
191.
that's fine. So we can,
I mean, we know
dial
that.
that down, but that.
And I apologize that you didn't get bills, but you used to get bills originally because it was a new service for us when we got the new phones.
It's because
So-
we had our own service.
Right, but when we
When
changed the
Jerry
whole
told
phone
us to get rid
system,
of it, yeah.
I gave you the bills, and then I don't know why I stopped. That's my fault, but the amount never changed, so that's why I figured, okay, so that was my fault. Now, it wasn't the administration holding something from you, I'll take full responsibility. But the amount didn't change, and then when I heard we hadn't seen them, Michelle told me, I said, oh my gosh, I'll give them the bills, and then we were able to reduce them.
Not quite like that.
I'm like, I didn't realize that we needed them. So it was a good thing. It was a good thing that, and we were able to disconnect one line that wasn't being used.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So. That was a
So-
good thing.
General services, I didn't change anything there. Office supplies, 1,500, obviously. Toner, is a big thing, paper, things like that. Operating supplies, so we have our own, we shop for our own, toilet paper and the paper towels and that sort of thing, paper plates, for use. So that's what the operating supplies are on there. A miscellaneous of 100 in case, something. And then equipment. So the equipment's the last big one. So this year, I added 5,000. And the reason I did that is a couple of reasons. One is the computers that we have now are about 9 years old, going on 10. So they're getting up there in age, and they're a little slow. So it'd be nice to have something that was faster. But the other reason, and equally important maybe, is the whole like Zoom, and obviously this, Microsoft Teams, all the video conferencing. So we only have one laptop in there that has the capability to video conference. So obviously the desktops that we have don't have microphones, don't have video. So we just have that. So the problem, the issue was last year was during appeals, there was a couple times when we had two hearings going on at the same time. And so we had one computer, the laptop for the township, great, use that. But then the other individual, Jamie mostly, would bring his computer in, from his personal computer to use it, because we didn't have another one. So I really think that it would be helpful for us if we could have a new set that had the video capabilities, because it's not going to go away. I think that the county is going to continue to have the appeals by video. There may be a situation once COVID finally ever, but it becomes endemic, I guess, that they would have something whereby maybe people could come in. But I don't think that they're ever going to be a situation where it's going to be mandatory like it was in the past. My guess is that if you want to go down there, if you're the appellant and you're appealing, if you want to go there, then you can go there. But the township people, assessors and deputies, will still be able to handle it via remotely.
I mean, I've been in your office many times when they either have the laptop in the middle of the room
Yeah.
so that they could do training all around, or they have the one,
Yeah.
and Jamie is on the computer listening, when
You've got one on-
visually on one, but then he has another system so that he could hear or communicate back. So being able to go into that office, I do see it's completely chaos when they all have to do something together, or to see Jamie having to use a monitor for one and a laptop to communicate. That
And you
is,
couldn't hear him when he was turning.
I mean, that is, I mean, that is that is the one thing that I'm definitely gonna say,
Yeah.
I hope we support as a supervisor, because I've seen it in action. That definitely has to
It's just
be,
that it's, you know.
it's
new way of
2022,
working.
that, you know, that does have to be updated.
Are those, you use like one monitor or two
No,
monitors?
everybody has two monitors.
2 months, okay.
And then, you know, the desktop tower, I think you got them back in 11 or 12. So the.
I've worked on a couple of
Oh,
the
you
systems that are,
9 years old.
yeah, let's just say, no.
Yeah,
That's been an issue.
that's been an issue, that one I'm gonna be
In
like,
fact, we have an issue being in contact with our IT company right now related to some business disruptions over there. I'm not gonna go into details. Which has prevented us from getting a more firm number for what that looks like, along with potential updates to the data processing costs. But this is part of a holistic thing that we're looking at throughout the township, including the highway department as well. This is the most current piece of technology that we have here, and this one's mine. You know, it's dealing with COVID and some of the issues that we've had. They've showed me how they were able to remotely work by dialing in through not entirely secure connections to be able to access township resources from their personal computers at home. That's completely unacceptable in this day and age, especially considering we're dealing with taxpayer information. And then within our township office in the highway department, this is our laptop. I mean,
Yep.
everybody else is bringing something in. I think Bob uses, our highway supervisor uses his personal laptop for stuff because he's just more comfortable with that as well. Yeah, it's part of a more comprehensive thing that number might change, but it's a good estimate, a good starting point.
And that was a real issue when the pandemic first hit.
Mhm.
Okay, it was a real issue because at the township, nobody could work outside of the office. It was, I mean,
We had to be in the office. to-
right, and I had my own laptop and our IT support set me up on a VPN so that I can sign in. But if we couldn't get that turned around quickly, we wouldn't have had people paid. I mean, we worked around it, but I think technology is really at a low here. That needs to be addressed overall.
And I think, Chris, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think even going back to like 2015, we were talking about getting you at least a field laptop, even that long ago, and it still hasn't happened.
Yeah.
So it's
Never
well
happened.
past time.
Never happened. Travis.
Yeah, I echo what they were saying there, that someone who had to update, get a laptop to do Zoom meetings, it was a pain in the neck half the time. But I also want to say with each of you guys, I know you've been working very hard, especially in the last few years with this pandemic that we've been dealing with here, and you guys have been working your tails off, and I do commend you for that. And also, I just wanted to ask you real quick, Assessor Ditton, with the educational one, are you guys anticipating that you're going to be going down to Naperville and down to Normal, Illinois now, or are we going to be doing this
Yeah.
through Zoom? Because I know things could be changing within the next few months.
I think so far, we're going to Normal, the three of us, and then, you know, Naperville's in August, so we'll see what that happens. But they might do a Zoom on that, who knows?
Yeah, 'cause I know it changes every 6 months of what they're planning to be doing with a lot of these
She's
things.
doing her classes online.
Yeah, my first class I
Was
already
it Zoom?
took was online,
So it was like,
which I learned.
yeah,
do that.
it's different
Yeah, I would do
personalities.
that.
I prefer to train in person, where I,
Mhm.
you know, drove to Springfield, because I get a lot more out of it, interacting, but that's my personality, than sitting in front of a monitor.
They also do that.
I like paper.
It's up on my paper, I want my book in front of me.
I like closing my laptop when I'm done and never.
So what questions does the board have, or the finance committee have? Oh, I'm sorry, Chris, are you done?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. That's it.
Okay,
And we'll figure out, again, you know, if I find out, whatever, but yes, I mean, yeah. I'm
so
done.
we'll open up to, for discussion.
So what's the bottom line?
302,050, but that doesn't include, Chris,
The 307.
no, it's,
302, that was just a total, which I would list, I think.
it's not that number. That's
302.
302,050 was the number
302,050.
from a math perspective.
Now, what happened was it double counted the equipment.
5,000, yeah.
Oh,
So, you know, and probably because I never put anything in there either, so, you know, I was set up incorrect. So, anyway, that's what happened. When you pointed out to me, I got it, and then I removed it, and
Yeah, when I put it in my spreadsheet, I'm like, doesn't
Yeah.
matter. But my question to you is the 302,050, but when you talked about salaries, you're still short about 4 or 5, is that what you're telling me? I just wanna make sure, because, or are you gonna make it work with the numbers? Because you had said, you know, 11 for Jessica, you only have an 18,000 increase in salary line.
Yeah.
So, I just want to make sure, because you quoted different amounts and it was, more than 18,000. So let's just make sure that I know what your number is. Is the 193.5 adequate? Or are you short? That's adequate. Okay, because I added up 11 and 5 and 5 and 1,300 and it's a much higher number, so I just wanted to make sure. Okay, so 193.5 is what you're calling for.
I mean, I know for Jessica, her pay is low, but that's something we definitely need to look at.
Gotta
Because
keep her.
bigger keeper, but I mean, Jessica and I, we've had discussions too, from what she's doing from when she first started until now and what her actual role is, compared to when I first started. I did not realize Jessica does as much as she does. Only it's because her desk is the closest desk to when somebody comes into the room, that she's not just a receptionist, she's not just, a data entry person. She has a lot more education, a lot more skills. She has the MLS. She's the only one in the office that has an MLS. So when we do talk about Jessica, it's just she's more than just what I first realized my first couple of months or so, Jessica. You know what I mean? Because you see everybody else and you really don't realize what everybody's talents are, what everybody's skills are, and where everybody is in the office. So that's just something really to take in consideration is. I'm not
Thank you.
selling you great, but you know what I mean? I think sometimes people misunderstand when they look at somebody's salary and where they're positioned in the office as not this,
Right.
and not as equal as like, you know, Edwin and things like
Yeah,
that.
so, again, anybody's welcome to
Come to our office.
contact me, come in, if you want to get an idea, I'm happy, to show you around and, tell you, what everybody does, and we have more discussion. If 45 minutes isn't long enough, then, we can have much more.
Thanks, good.
Yeah, because we're talking a long time.
I mean, I'm happy to share. Yeah, so the point being is that, everybody, especially Jessica and everyone are, essentially doing, the same, duties, a little bit, one may be doing more field work than the other, but yeah, and again, keeping in mind that, the office before the pandemic and, kind of getting back a little bit more to it, but more people coming in. And so the reason to have somebody up there is so that when somebody comes in, they see somebody. I mean, I could easily put her, in the body of where we are. But then when people come in, they're like, oh, no, there's nobody here, what's going on? So, yeah, so it's still, she's still obviously handling everything, that, Evan does and, kind of some of the things we do, up there. And so, yeah, I mean, Michelle's right. She's just not somebody who just sits and answers the phone and then does nothing. So,
And the only other thing is, as Chris was saying, is Edwin and I had discussion, is especially for the finance committee and some of the board members, if you do not understand what the assessor's office really does, and it's hard to just look at numbers and make decision. They are very open to having the finance committee members make an appointment, come in and see them, come in after hours,
Welcome.
whatever works.
I don't know about her.
Well, yeah. I get paid overtime.
I have no problem staying over.
Yeah, I mean, it's just to have a better understanding of what the assessor's office does and how important they are to our community, and they are 1/3 of basically what the township does, is that we got to make sure that we are taking care of our residents and making sure that we have qualified assessors and, you know, all the other roles in the office, so.
I just want to say I've always enjoyed my visits over at your guys' office.
We're gonna get a group now, finally.
You're always a hoot whenever I visit.
Is the IMRF for everybody or just certain employees does it cover the whole group?
Anybody that works
For all
more
the
than
employees,
1,000
and the
hours.
board
is
has
required.
I think every year, right? The board has to, is it every year?
No. That's
One-
only
No.
for elected officials.
Only for elected officials, we have to
Anybody
certify.
else, the law is if you're an employee, if you work more than 20 hours a week on a regular basis, you're required to participate in IMRF. You have no choice. That's
Yeah,
IMRF
yeah.
rules.
I'm sorry, I don't mean.
Yeah.
Difference between 600 and 1,000 hours. That was what I ever used to. And so the township could decide, I believe that I'm almost positive.
No, but that's-
Yeah, but no, we're
1,000
locked into whatever we're at, and so
Be
yeah.
our township. So-
The elected officials have to self-certify every year that they met the hours requirement,
Not employees.
Okay, yeah.
but not employees. Employees, that's based on their time cards or records that way.
Yeah, as long as they work 1,000 hours, then.
Yeah, the 600 is more for like teachers that work, like teachers that work throughout the year, but they don't work July, August, September. So they have some teachers that work more than 20 hours during their work time. It's really 1,000 hours generally for non-seasonal work.
And you said the number was off, so is it off low or off?
No, it's high.
It's hot. Okay.
Yeah, the rate for Avon this year is 3.71. It was 4.9 last year.
Oh, it went down.
Yeah, it went down, and it's all based on
Investment performance of IMRF
Yes.
overall, right?
not just, no, it's the Avon Township's performance, and when people pull from, it's not that rate, that what we
Oh, that's
contribute
right.
is, has nothing to do with any other township. It has to do with our township and our performance and who draws early, late. It's a actuarial thing. The 4.5 that the employees contribute and the elected officials is across the board. Everybody, if you're in IMRF, you have to contribute 4.5% of your pay. And that hasn't changed as long as I've been here. But the rate changes annually for the match, the employer match, and it's 3.71 this year.
So I think it's about 2,200.
Yeah, it's 20,
I think
2,400.
That's based on my math.
But it will, yeah,
I
Yeah. should be 7,200.
Anybody else?
So I, just this worksheet, Chris, so I understand, I just took the salary divided by the hourly rate, because the hourly rate was hand loaded in your spreadsheet, and took the hours. Is this saying everybody else is working 2,080 hours, you know, how did you get the hourly rate?
Hourly rate was according to each assessor's office.
Okay, so,
So I didn't include all that, that's just too much.
No,
So
I understand.
All I did was took their hourly rate divided by what they get paid.
okay,
by the rate.
so on average, this first one, they work 2,030 hours a year. And this one, 2,074, 2018. So I just went, yeah, I just took this number divided by the hourly pay to come up. So this is 40 hours a week.
Some of them don't work 40 hours a week. So
So
you
that
can't
is-
go by 40 hours a week because each office has different hours.
Right, so what I'm saying is, how did you get the hourly rate?
Because I took whatever office they worked at,
Correct.
divided it by how many hours they work in their office, and that's how I came up with that. So
Got
you can't do
But
40
this
hours.
divided by this is 2008.
No, but you can't do that because, you can't do that because you gotta go by how many hours they work in their office.
But if that's
That's
their
right.
annual pay, and that's their hourly rate. and you
Right,
divide the two,
for what they work in their office, like we work, so here's the average salary. I
Oh.
took that and divided it by how many hours we work in our office times, 52 weeks. So that would give you that based on our hourlies that we work in our office.
Okay,
I mean-
I'll table that and talk to you outside.
All right, because every office works different. There's like 3 offices that work 40 hours.
Right, but what I'm saying
And
is,
everybody
just
else
take
some
the
work
first one.
33.
If somebody gets paid 94,000
Yep,
and it's 45.19 per hour, if you take 94 divided by 45,
but you can't do 40 because that's not how many hours they work in that office. I'll show you my spreadsheet.
Okay, that would be great.
Yeah.
Just so I understand, because,
Because each office works a different amount of hours. Right, so they're paid.
Makes sense, what you're saying makes sense.
yeah, but
Otherwise,
if I take their annual salary divided by the hourly rate, it has to come up with their hours worked, right? I mean, that's just math.
It's not 40, I'll
It's
show,
just
I'll show you my spreadsheet.
Okay, yeah, help me understand that, so that I understand.
So in the meantime, if anybody has any questions within the next week or so, reach out to Chris, you know, at his office with any questions that you may have, to further, you know, explain anything that Chris talked about. You know, email me and I could talk with Chris too. And any other questions at all?
I just have a little tiny thing. Chris, I remember last year, wasn't there, between the two of you and Crystal, this April meeting, did that fall under one budget? Wasn't there a timing issue between the budget periods, something last year? So when you go to this meeting, is there gonna be a situation similar to that this year, with the three people going?
No,
Okay, it's
no,
not.
no,
We're gonna be
no,
dealing on
because
this
hopefully-
budget or
yeah,
next year, or
yeah.
just.
Terry
It's
sort of
going
messed
to-
up when we had to work on last year's budget,
Gotcha.
so, yeah.
Okay,
So
so
this shouldn't affect any of it.
it shouldn't,
as long as
the
it's
numbers
within
will be
the
the
time.
numbers in the budget year that we're talking about,
Yeah.
okay. All right.
Yes, and that's why we're also giving, you know, ample time to work things out and if we have to readjust anything,
Right.
you know, we're gonna be able to do that. And we have our finance committee, which is gonna be able to, you know, share the information and ultimately it's up to the board.
Right.
But this way you are able to help us make sure everything is going right. But yeah, we don't see a problem with sharing.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chris.
Yeah,
for-
thorough.
Thank you, Chris, for designing. So now we're going on to the general assistant presentation. And I know Anne Marie has,
I don't know if everyone had copies of it, so I need to give you copies.
One in tiny print.
I'm sorry,
No,
I
we're
was
kidding.
gonna say I'm sorry, but, I tried to put it all on one page.
Also up on the screen for people who need to.
Like I said,
you guys not gonna stay for ours?
No.
this is the good stuff.
That's the boring stuff.
Gotta work in the morning.
This is the fun
I
stuff.
gotta work in the morning. I don't know any copies.
No problem.
I'm going to give it to.
Jessica, no open.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so.
I love it, because I didn't have time to.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
All right, so now we're gonna talk about the supervisor's budget. So Anne Marie's gonna talk and I'm gonna be talking in between Edward. Just questions. Yes, may have.
I'm going to step away for just a moment.
Okay.
Okay. All right, hopefully this one will go quicker than that one, okay? I'm hoping. Should I wait for Crystal then?
No, you're good.
Okay. So generally, here is the GA budget, the supervisor GA. And really, I have to confirm a couple things, but I got the levy information after and I didn't send a new one to you guys, but roughly the levy, and I'm not, in the past, we haven't budgeted 100% of the levy, even though in GA in town, we've been collecting 100%. So that number may change by a couple thousand, the revenue. But this year I'm not planning on any interest or dividend income because we've been losing,
That'll
this
keep
year.
happening. Interest rates going up, that's gonna happen.
Yes, so, and we said we're gonna keep it where we're at right now,
Patience is power.
and that's what,
That's the
hopefully,
quote of the day.
yeah.
Putting that out there.
And so I'm being as patient as I can, but the other thing is, we no longer have any CDs. All the CDs, are matured, and we have not reinvested in CDs.
They're just sitting in cash at the State Bank of Lakes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and most of it's town and highway money, but, Fund 20, when there's CDs, I put it in the wealth management, which that was prior to this administration. We decided to put it in wealth management and give it a shot, but, so I'm not planning any upside, but I'm not planning any downside either. And miscellaneous income, we're not planning for that. In GA, we've had, A few things come in, a few donations, but I think the biggest thing in that number, I don't know why I can't remember it right now. I don't know what the biggest thing, there was one big item for most of that number, but I'm not planning on, I don't plan for donations because we don't know if we'll get them. Going down to personnel services. So the first line item, and the way this worksheet works, I gave you spending through January 31st, that's the first column, of the numbers. Then last year's budget and the variance of where we are to that through January. Then I estimated what I think February is going to be, because I like to budget not based on comparing it to the last year's budget. I like to base it on what our spending has been. So you can see, so that column, total estimated fiscal year ended 2/28/22 is where I think we're gonna end up. In the next, our fiscal year end is 27 days away. So, and then the last column is what we're looking at for budget for next, the upcoming fiscal year. So the salaries line, we only have 2 heads in GA currently. Last year we had 3 for 3/4 of the year. We're gonna keep it at 2 heads, and really all they have is a cost of living increase in there. So we have, I don't know if you want me to talk about the specifics.
No.
No, okay, so we just have roughly a 3 to 5% increase in there between the 2 employees. FICA again is a flat rate of 7.65 for the employer portion. IMRF is 3.71, which is a function of both those employees participating in IMRF. The next one is health insurance, which I specifically asked the 2 people in that fund if they were gonna not change their plan. All I asked them is, will you be adding people? Because that's the other thing, from year to year, they can add dependents, they can add spouses, they can do whatever they want. So it's based on the current rate that we're running at with a 10% increase. Okay, what we're paying today, and they both said, no, they're gonna keep the insurance current. So, and you'll see where I think we're gonna end up this year, the reason why it's going down in most cases is because we have 1 less head. Okay? Dental and life insurance, again, the presumed rate, those are insignificant. And unemployment, our unemployment rate went down finally. We didn't have any claims for the last almost 2 years. So 20 and 21. So it went down to the lowest rate possible because it's been in the 4% factor.
So even though we're down 1 head, we didn't have a claim last fall, 24 months.
No, no, and the specifics of that is, the state called me and I provided them with the information that they asked for, and I believe they denied that
I
claim.
remember, yep.
Okay, so we have no claims pending that I'm aware of. So it basically brings our personnel expenses down about $23,000 roughly. So, any questions there? Okay, so I'll keep on going on. Professional services. Basically, this is what I did. Our biggest issue with GA in the last 3-4 years, and even prior to the past administration, we've been having major tax objections. And those objections cost us legal costs, and we have to, any excess accumulated funds, we have to give back to the attorney and the county. So over the last couple of years, there was a conscious effort to spend GA money and get it in the hands of the people who need it. We're in a little different situation this year, but we have our last tax objection that's being reviewed right now by the attorney for 2020. But what I did as part of that, because I said, why aren't other villages and municipalities having the same issue? And our attorney represents most of them who do have an issue. So I've been looking at other financial statements and talking to other financial people at the other Fremont, Wakanda, Waukegan, just seeing, and then looking at their financials on that are open public information. So they put in, their copier costs. So we, said this year, we will start putting in costs that are truly related to GA. So most of the copier costs that people come in and ask for copies. Okay, they come in and say, we make copies, and we don't charge them as long as it's, I think, below 50 pages or something, it's 50 pages or something. So it's a free service to the community. So we thought, we have a lease and we get charged monthly, so we thought we'd put in. So the things that I'm putting in here, I haven't completely worked on the the township fund. They should go down corresponding for anything I put in GA. So half of the cost of the copier printer service I put in there. Contract and accounting, I put a third of the audit, okay, cost of $1,500. Legal services, which we've never had a line item for. You probably can't see it on these on this copy, but they're shaded. These are accounts that are either new or we haven't, I have to either create or haven't been used in several years. So I'm gonna add some legal costs, because we used to, any charges that is in contingency line item has been the legal costs to, pay for any tax objection attorney support. So that is what I put in for legal services. We haven't spent more than a couple $1,000s a year. But I'm hoping again, we won't have to spend this, because when at the end, I'll explain to you what our reserves may be after this budget.
And also, and we talked about, now that you figured it out, a lot of this you could do without an attorney, except for the very end, you know what I mean? Some of the-
Well, I
some
did
of
all the work for him.
Yeah, you did all the work.
Where in the prior objections, Terry said, I'm just letting you know that this is going on. And you never let me get involved. And now I can do it. Not that, we probably still need an attorney to talk to an attorney, but he didn't have to do any work.
And Diane, from Fremont doesn't use an attorney either, except for the very end. So, yeah, she does everything herself.
And Diane is,
Fremont supervisor.
okay. So I've been able to give, them information, the attorney information prior to him requesting. I said, here's where we are at. Here's, what projects, like for the highway, that are pending that, you know, shouldn't be considered for accumulation of funds, because we had to keep money to pay for these open projects. So I think it's working out good, but I'll find out as soon as, he responds to my email to see where we're at. We've only been charged roughly, bills that will be presented in this month's, board packet is only about $1,200-1,300. And prior year, 2019, all the amounts that are in contingencies, were what we paid, in the past. So the $2,856, you know, or actually the year-to-date $1,555 is what we paid for prior years. I think we'll probably get it slightly cheaper. And as I become more versed in it, I think I can do most of it. So that's what's in legal. It's just a flip. Data processing, that hasn't changed. I just put a slight increase in there. GA uses the visual GA software that they share with other agencies so that they can see what they need to for somebody getting support applying for some of our programs. And all I did, we only have a one user license, and that seems to be working fine. We have one computer with it. I just did a slight increase. We've been paying $1,000, but I'm having this feeling that it might go up a little this year. So it's a couple $100 more. Contingencies, the $10,000 line item, that's for, that's just a number. I mean, that's to cover any oopses that we didn't budget for. The prior year's budget was 13,000 because we took some of the legal and put it in another line item. We just brought that number down to 10. There's no intention of spending that money unless something unknown happens. So that's just a plug in. I don't know, what does the law allow
That's,
us?
DCEO's recommendation is 5% of the total budget, which is why that 13,000 number came
Oh.
in. It wasn't an arbitrary number, it was
Okay, see, I didn't know, because I.
based on a recommendation from the state.
Okay, so do you want me to leave it at 5% of the budget, or do you want me to leave it at 10? I mean, that's something that we can talk about, so.
Pre-planning it at 5% would be fine, that's what was
Okay.
agreed to last year, and we
Okay,
can adjust from there if need be.
It would make sense, you know.
okay, I'll adjust that for the next, for the, board, for the next meeting. 5% of the budget. Okay, so anything in that category? Have any questions? Okay, moving on, professional development.
I'm asking to change some of my initial amounts, because I think when I was talking to you, I was mixing, I think some of the trustees getting trained too, going down to TOI and things like that.
Okay.
So I think we're gonna be high
Okay,
with continuing education, because I'm thinking even if Candy and Isaac, they're only gonna go to maybe 2 trainings, 2 or 3 trainings max, and they're all gonna be local. I'm the one who'd be traveling more to Springfield for the TOI, for legislation day, things like that. So we're probably gonna have to readjust that a little bit, it's gonna be lower.
okay, so you will provide me with a better.
Yeah, because like what I'll do is I'll look to see how much all the trainings are to get a better number, and I'm not sure if we could talk to the trustees, if they're planning on in November going down to Springfield for a training, then we could adjust that.
Okay.
And the other fund, I don't, if you're planning going down to legislative day,
Okay, well, what's in this fund is
Yeah.
things related to GAD.
GA, that's why I'm thinking.
Yes, so
let's
topics,
change that.
GAD, or
Yeah.
anything like that, that's a town,
Top-
that's.
Right, so
fund
let's
10.
take, so am I GA or am I'm
You're,
GA?
no.
I'm town.
You're
Lane?
Yes,
Okay.
the only
Even
thing,
if I'm going down for GA training though.
no, when you go to GA training, no, but the instructions that I get is if you're doing anything that benefits the knowledge for a GA program, okay, for all our programs, then it goes to, Fund 20. Crystal, you're giving me like you don't agree.
Because
It's iffy when it becomes this like blurred between elected and GA side thing.
Okay,
So it's easier for the elected to pay for it out of the
town,
town fund,
Okay,
as opposed to employees where it's clearly a GA requirement thing.
okay, so we can adjust
So
that.
there's no blurred line there.
Okay, because I've done like GA training, I want to
So
do. GA
Like, you
training.
can go down to TOI's, conference for the 2-day training, and even trustees can sit in on GA trainings.
Right,
Even though it gives us an overview, but it's not a benefit, but I wouldn't pay for that out of GA funds.
okay,
So really, you could use it that way, but let's just be above board with it.
yeah, that's, I wasn't sure.
so
because
should I be changing what's been charged there this year?
Because I've done for
Any
GA
GAD
training.
training.
No, going down for GADI training is specific to GA programming.
Yes.
That's absolutely
Yes. Okay,
GA fund,
so
100%.
whether it was, Michelle or not,
That was in her role specifically as that to be trained for
Okay.
that role.
And then.
There's
GA
no gray area
Okay,
with
so then
that.
Jeannie went down for training too, as representing like the trustees to understand GA a little bit better.
well.
Because like Rudy has a role, everybody has a role kind of. in-
That one's a little bit more gray because she's an elected official, but doesn't administer GA and doesn't
But it helps,
do
with-
anything GA related. Yes, it does help,
right, okay.
but I would consider that more of a town expense.
Okay,
We're talking about a tiny fraction of
So,
money.
but
It's not a
yeah,
big
Either
deal.
way, we're gonna adjust the
So-
professional budget, yeah, totally, yeah, okay,
okay, so I put a note that Michelle and I will work again,
Right.
on it again.
yeah,
So then that will correspondingly adjust the mileage and the per diem.
yes.
Okay, so
we'll
all
change that.
those 3 line items.
Right,
I mean, basically, we haven't had training since pandemic for the most part. And then the training that they just did for GADI was iffy up until like 2 weeks before,
right.
if not a week before, so.
I mean, I am encouraging my staff to go to as many trainings, DOI offers for our caseworkers.
Right, to help them do
Yeah.
their job better.
There could be other classes that are TOI related, that could be held for
Right,
CLC,
yeah,
for
that's what we
caseworkers and
said, yeah,
things.
so.
That number makes sense.
But,
Okay,
yeah, it's
so-
not gonna be mileage and things like that, too. Okay,
So I'll leave that as something we will have to re-review. Okay, just correct.
Quick question, as far as we know, this is all gonna be done in person, not through Zoom, as far as we know
right,
this year?
I'm moving forward.
Okay.
Okay. Moving right along, discretionary spend. That primarily, over the years, the only thing we've really spent a whole lot on is the essentials program. Because those are people, in need, major need of just basic things. They've been spending about $500 a month on essentials, and they've been giving each person that comes in 5 items. But now the plan is to give them 6 items. And the dollar store is no longer a dollar store. We source most of it from the dollar store. And the dollar store went up 25%. So instead of 500, I planned roughly $700 in the essentials program for the year. So that's basically the increase. I think we're gonna spend just shy of 6, and I put in 8,500. I missed youth services, I'm sorry.
Well, here, can I talk for a moment?
Okay.
I think, so my personality is more going to the people, getting out there, having people come here. And without the food pantry, there has been a loss of traction coming into Avon Township, office. And my job is to make sure that I am, taking care of our community. So youth services and senior services, by providing activities, by providing resource fairs, like we're gonna be having the Easter egg hunt, but we're gonna be having, I think, at least 10, if not more, they're still coming in, different social service agencies along with us. So we're gonna be able to hold a huge Easter egg hunt because we have a great backyard. But the ultimate goal, besides the fun, is to get people to come to the township to understand what resources we have. So we do, in the past, we've always done like the touch a truck, but that's about it. And so my goal, where I'm asking for the funding, is to have senior events, to have youth events, to have family events. So people understand what the township is, but always providing resources. And the more I'm able to work with the other social service agencies and the park districts, libraries and things like that, it's actually gonna be a benefit for us. And then by partnering with them, they're helping me be able to go to the Round Lake Park District. I'm building up all these different relationships. So not just agents, the programs that I'm having, I'm gonna be able to go to theirs and have tables or volunteer. So it's a new line with more money put in, but I'm gonna, this is one area that I'm really gonna fight for, not that you guys are not gonna say, let me have it, is that I really feel it's important for us to let people know really what Avon Township does. And then it'll also help the assessor's office and the unincorporated areas about, the highway department. So we can, that's it. I just really want to make sure.
I like it. It's a great idea. My one thing I just want to ask though is, is this something we can do in the GA fund, or would that be something that could be better put under the township?
Maybe GA, because we're going to be having all the social service agencies and our target audience
It's outreach.
is outreach
Okay.
and inviting the people who are our clients that come in here and making sure that they're, that we're taking care of them. We're going to know all the resources that we
Because
have.
people can't get resources if they don't know they're available.
If they don't know if they're available, and it may be, because, we're like a highway department, a highway, where I can make connect you to here, I may connect you to here, but if you don't know about it, you're never gonna get there.
Sure. Okay.
Alrighty, so that's, again, we plan for all these different events, but to have roughly 5 events at somewhere around $500 a pop, and.
We did a Halloween event with Exchange Club, and we had, I think, over 125 children show up. And then we had Mano a Mano, we had all these other resources that came too. So it was a successful event. My goal is also to partner with other social service agencies or civic organizations when we have our events. So it's kind of like shared leadership and shared, investment too.
Great time too.
Actually, the events you've had have been really very positive. I hear a lot of good things from, I do various clients in this area for tax preparation. And they'll say, what's going on at the township? There's a lot of exciting
Well,
things.
that is one of my stronger
Yeah,
areas
and they're-
is involvement with the community.
Right, they have mentioned to me that they've been very pleased with the culture change. It's a culture change, now they feel like it is a community service more than it has been in the past. And nobody has ever asked me about Avon until you've been elected. In a good way.
What I've learned is that every supervisor has their own take on what they want to do and from their own experience. And so I'm just trying to make it my own. This one, somebody told me who used to be a supervisor was, make it your own. Don't do everything at one time, but find your spot.
Your lane.
All right, the next one is Blending Closet. That program is primarily offering the use of walkers, wheelchairs, meal pads, different things to our community. We have the equipment, but sometimes when somebody uses it, it breaks down. So we just have in there to repair equipment to keep it top notch for the next user.
And this is a very popular program that we offer, and we keep marketing it through social media, and we're getting more and more people coming in. And that's another way. And you don't have to qualify for our GA. You could just be a regular community member and you need a crutches or a wheelchair, and people are so grateful to have the Lending Closet that we do. So that's it.
Okay, senior services, again, an area that's focused for Michelle, that she wants to have some senior events, various yoga. We have yoga already, he's doing it for free.
Great, yes.
But maybe down the road, we might have to pay him. I think he's, I don't know what the.
So where's that one line? So in the past, we had $2,500 going to a budget class. That is not very successful because we could offer 20 budget classes, but we're not getting the numbers are coming into people to use that service.
Right, that's in emergency. We don't
Yeah.
have that in discretionary. That's
Discretionary, but yeah.
But I can move it up. too.
Yeah.
I can move it up. too.
Either one.
So that's really, again, the focus of getting more of the seniors, and in every case, bringing social service, companies in to help. The one senior event we did have was pretty successful. A number of the service agencies came in and seniors came in and they knew.
We
what was
had
available.
you could renew your license. It was a whole senior fair, and it was successful because we brought other social service agencies in.
Outreach, what's gone in there historically is the Touch a Truck. But this year, again, since the COVID, we haven't done much, but meet the board, coffee with the supervisor, those are things that Michelle has wanted to do, but hasn't really been able to do that real easily without, with COVID at its high points. So that's budgeted $1,000. The reason why we spent $4,700 last year was this current year is we did that major flyer. They printed it, mailed it out to get people vaccinated here. So that was a big expense. That was primarily the major expense in outreach, is to notify everyone that during Touch a Truck, we were having a station here for people to get vaccinated.
We had quite a few that got vaccinated too at that event.
Well, I think it was like 10, but at the time, everybody was vaccinated. Now, if we were to have that event, we would probably, it'd be the boosters, it'd be very successful. And we could have a booster event and for free. If we have our Easter egg hunt and we still want to have it, I'm sure somebody would come out from Lake County and, set up a table.
But they were elated because they put these boots on for people to get vaccinated and nobody shows.
Yeah.
Or they get one, so they had
If I-
7 at this
If I
event.
recall correctly, we had called
I
people.
was involved in the second one. I was out of town that week, but they were very happy. They were like, we don't care, because they have to bring out all the equipment and it's not easy because they have to keep it at a certain temperature. I mean, so they were happy that they got 7 people.
Yeah, from what they told me, they got more people at the Touch a Truck event than they've had in any other event so far in the past year.
I think we were disappointed because we expected more, but they were very pleased, so. Okay, so we're not planning, well, we have a flyer, a newsletter, or some other things for communication that we have on another line item, but we have 1,000 in that line for outreach, health services, you know, that's just for a health fair to plan, really, the $750. They have a health fair, with social services there. Miscellaneous, I think the only thing, why am I not, thinking, the biggest number in miscellaneous discretionary spend is somebody's air conditioning broke down and we paid $700. That's 700 of the, 1,029. That's not a line item that we, we don't usually pay for that, but that was something, and I think we were in the high 90s or something, and they didn't have any, air conditioning. So, the township, they qualified and paid $700. So that really, that 1,500 in the budget is a catch-all for things that we don't specifically identify. Okay? Any other questions in discretionary? Okay, moving on to emergency assistance and GA. Currently, and since I've been here, we do not have any GA clients, okay? So the only thing we've been supporting is emergency EA clients, which has been the bulk of our support. Hospital outpatient, because we don't have any GA clients, we just left it at 0. I mean, we had $1,500 in it. The last several years, we haven't paid a dime in that area. And it becomes less prevalent because now with the Affordable Care Act, more people have insurance, more people can, they have coverage through the government. So, I talked to a couple other agencies and they haven't been doing any spending in that category either because of the American Cares Act, and people are being able to be insured. Pharmaceuticals, we had a budget of $3,500. We're going to spend only about $1,600, and we're spending because we had to spend the Walmart grant. We got a $1,500 Walmart grant this year. So what they spent the money for, we spent the money for was like first aid kits, no medicines, but Band-Aids, tape, all the things. And
Fire department gave us, this little bag.
Lunch bag.
Kind of like lunch bags, and then, so each senior and then households will be able to get one, because again, these are the clients that don't have Band-Aids, don't have Neosporin, they don't have the very basics. So for us, this is a great gift for them to have in their house. So we're going to be distributing those next month, or as soon as we get the rest of the supplies in.
So we're hoping that we'll also qualify next year for that grant, if available, and we'll do something similar. So that's why we put another $1,500 in the spend.
Yeah, Walmart has kind of adopted us. I have the relationship that I'm building where they gave us a bunch of like Christmas trees. When things are going to come up that they have to get rid of, they are now thinking about us as their local partnership, which I think is great, especially with the Walmart.
Yeah.
Probably you can see the Grinch throwing trees in the truck car as well.
Do what I gotta do.
Okay, other medical services, again, since we don't have any GA clients and we haven't spent money in that category for several years, we did not budget anything for that this year. Transportation and fuel, the spending this year has been when individuals' cars break down and they don't have the income to fix it and they need their car to go to work, to be employed. And then we bought also, but I'm not certain it hit this yet, 300, no, it did. The $300 in fuel cards for the seniors. That if they need, not fuel cards, PACE. So if they need to go to the doctors and they don't, we got 25 $10 cards, is that for there?
$300 total.
Yeah,
But it'll give them, a transportation if they have to go down to court, if they have to go, do something. We're gonna be able to get them there. And transportation to see a doctor is a huge concern that people have sometimes. They can't afford to go to the doctor.
right, so we budgeted again, $1,000 for next year, to possibly repeat that program or see the demand for that, because transportation, we've never marketed at all. The big two items in this, as client utilities and shelter, those two line items. So we had budgeted, just to give you some background, during pandemic, Avon Township participated in the federal government's assistance programs. One was called CHIRP and one was called FARA. So they were federal assistance programs which allowed applicants in Lake County, or all of Illinois and throughout the United States, but here Lake County administered it. We were awarded grants. And we were able to get that money, supply it to individuals, use their software, which they call Service Point, so that applicants weren't getting from more than one agency. So we used Lake County software. And we actually were very successful. We spent the money we had for FARA. We were awarded $300,000. CHIRP, we were awarded, I think it was only, it was less than 200,000. But in the beginning, it was hard to get started. When we did FARA, we asked for twice as much. We got it, and we spent it instantaneously. The problem was, and then we got a second award for 100,000 just to pay the things in the pipeline, because we had already talked to those applicants, reviewed their applications and put them in the Service Point. But it also took a lot of resources. So when Michelle came aboard, we said, let's finish what we've done and let's not continue.
And this was also when we had an employee change, and the FARA program goes on until September 2022. And our employee stated that 80% of her time was going to FARA. So it was going to the FARA program, then we're not using our employees to help our residents with what they need.
Right. So because of that, and that program will come to an end September of 2022, unless the federal government, does something else. So I put these numbers back to roughly pre-pandemic values. So what we're planning for client utilities is an estimate of 100 families at an average cost of $350, okay? Because in 2021, we serviced 90 families. In 2022, we serviced only 35. And that's because CHIRP and FARA were full blown. So the people that we might have serviced went through those programs.
Got it.
So we're back, so we're estimating 100. I hope our economy is better and people are employed and we don't need to do this, but in the same breath, the money's available if people need it. So that's for client utilities and shelter. And right now our programs, Michelle, are still $750 is the max you can pay anyone. Okay, if they qualify.
It's up to the supervisor discretion.
Right.
But if I go, my fear is if I go much higher, we could run out of funds, and I don't want to go lower. And we are higher than other townships, not as high as some. So that's why right now I want to stick with the 750.
Right. And the 750 generally runs under shelter, not utilities.
Right.
For the most part. I mean, there have been some cases, but our average for client utilities was, what did I say here? 50 families at 500. And we did in 2021, 27 families. In 2022, we only did 15.
Again, my goal is to get people to come into the township that need our services. But if they don't come in here, then the money's just gonna sit. So I want to make sure we're taking care of our community.
Okay, so those are the two big spending items in our EA programs. Funerals, we put in, $5,000, but the reason we put in more is, you thought that we might do, is that, no,
No, 25.
2,500, sorry, I can't even read my own, my small print. Yeah, 2,500, so we're planning for 5 families at $500 a pop. Again, we had one funeral this year and it was for a child. And we hope that doesn't repeat, but we have to have the money just in case somebody does.
I mean, the problem with GA is it's such an unknown.
Right,
It's such an unknown.
you can get bombarded
To
and then
put
you
these
run out.
numbers together.
So it just gives you background on what we planned and how we've spent it in the past. Prior to that, the last few years, we haven't spent funeral costs. Okay, the next one is client education and training. So the budgeting program that we have in place today, it was actually planned for 2020, then the pandemic hit. Well, we paid that person in advance. That's why we don't have any spending in that number, in that account, because we paid it in 2019, I believe, for 2020 services. So he was never able to do it, he's doing that now, so we budgeted going forward, $5,000, for some sort of budget for either some training related to financial budgeting, or mental health.
So this was my idea, that there was a lot of the presentations, a lot of, not just budgeting, mental health. There's a lot of different people that we could bring into the community, different classes that we can offer. Hopefully they're free, but that all of them are not. So this way we could offer 25 different classes that maybe, Anne Marie wants to go to, or Adam wants to go to, but it'll give us more variety with a little bit more spending money, or if we have to provide,
But this is
something.
client, this is not continuing education, this is client education and training.
oh, okay, what am I talking about?
I,
What line am I on?
I,
Yeah, budget weekly, budgeting and mental health classes.
right, but that's not for employees to go.
No.
Oh, okay.
I'm talking about people that come from the community that come in.
Oh, yes.
Staff, right now, we have like 20 classes for budget.
You used my name in the mental health training.
I did. So right now, we have 20 classes, and the odds of having those filled up every week is very limited, but we're able to offer all different types of classes. And if we're paying somebody right now, or we already paid him to do budget classes, I would rather find out what's in this community that's gonna benefit our community, members, and they could come here on a Tuesday night and learn this stuff. So we upped the money a little bit, because I think it's important for us to, again, continually educate our community, and you don't have to qualify just for GA,
Do
or
we-
just make sure anybody who needs assistance, wants to learn something, is able to come to our show.
I would agree.
Do we keep track of,
Keeping
The
that everyone aware of
I think we
Avon
kept-
Township to get them in the door.
Oh, hang on for a second. Michael, go ahead, sorry.
thanks, I'm hearing a lot of great ideas, and some of this, I think we went over with the vaccine clinic. Do we keep track of attendance at these events?
Yes. I mean, approximately, like we know how many came to the Halloween event, because we had pumpkins. We have different ways of keeping track. The budget class, they have not been successful. And there was, I think there's how many, 18 classes, 20 classes?
Yeah. Well, 18 and then he didn't, 17, I think it is.
Oh, I guess my question is,
There's gonna
if-
be just a couple budget classes.
if they're not successful, I understand that we added increased budgets for more classes, but people aren't necessarily going to those classes.
No, it's totally two different things.
Yeah,
Totally two different things from what is in the past and what we're planning on doing now.
the past is, we were just trying to recoup the money we already paid the guy. And we asked him to please provide services that, or pay us back the money.
And we paid him.
Oh, God.
The township paid-
Sorry,
The township
I was
paid him
getting confused.
$2,500
In advance.
in advance.
So, so the landscape won't be what has been done in the past, it will be different, so.
I think what's being proposed here is a more diverse offering of programs.
I appreciate the clarification. Thank you, Clerk Larson.
Yeah, not even pushing us.
All right,
We don't know what to read
yeah,
because
we won't repeat the errors in the past, we will learn
with
from
all
them.
due respect, I mean, 17 or even 18 or 20 budget classes where we've been advertising this and we haven't had too much success. Tells me we need to look at other ways of actually making this fund more efficient because quite frankly, for mental health as an example, that's going to be something I think a lot of folks are going to be beneficial from that.
Or we do, I wanted to do some form of training, whether it's, safety,
CPR.
CPR too, but, just awareness with the police coming here. But sometimes.
Sexual harassment.
Sexual harassment, but there may be, supplies that to have the class, it's $5 to give whatever the kit is. And this way we know if we have 20 people in the class, we would pay for just the kit, even though the presentation is free. It just gives us a little bit of, money leeway.
If we need materials to put on the class, even though the presenter is free.
Right,
Stuff like that.
yeah, basically that's what I'm saying.
Okay, the next one, service contract awards. We put a budget of 5,000 in there, we spent $7,500, year to date, and that's what we plan on spending, there's nothing that I know of that's gonna affect the next month. Paid the same place, $2,500, and 211, $5,000. So this amount of money, $5,000, is for the board's discretion to help determine what agencies that we do business with. I mean, again, when Michelle and I work through this budget, she is gonna work with the board to say, where do you think, we need to give agencies money? And I think your thought process.
Yeah, but the thought process is a little bit different than, say, the beginning of the year. I really want to make sure if we're going to be giving money, it's also an agency that we're working directly with. Because I think it's going to benefit us and the agency, build up that relationship together. So that is, this is my first official budget as a supervisor, so I'm still learning and developing as I go along and with the help of the board, so that's more my thought process.
So just so I can interject for a moment, because there's two separate sets of service contract awards that are available. This particular set is tied to emergency assistance or general assistance, which means the outreach has to correspondingly offer services that we aren't duplicating here. So things like With a Safe Place or 211, those are vital services that we don't have to duplicate. We're contracting with someone else to provide that EAGA assistance directly in a way that can be done more efficiently, as opposed to board discretionary funding, which is things like the Zebra Bustle program that comes out of the town fund. Just want to be sure that we differentiate between
Right.
those.
Thank you again, Clerk Larson.
Okay, the next line item, miscellaneous. The thing that we put in there is the placards, the handicap placards. So that's really what's in that number. We spent $600 this year on placards. It had a budget of 4,000. We have not spent nearly 4,000 in the past year, so we put in a budget of 750 this year. So we've reduced that category substantially from a $100,000 budget last year to a $75,000 budget this year. And we think we're only gonna spend about 32,000 this year, but we've amped up primarily shelter and client utilities, with the lack of the FAIR program continuing throughout 2020.
And what we did is we met with our caseworkers and got their opinion where they felt we were gonna be with our numbers. So it wasn't just Anne Marie and I.
Oh.
Yeah, we met with the caseworkers.
Yeah, I think I put notes down there that we first met with Candy. I mean, we've tried to do this, to understand, so everybody who's doing their role understands what's in the numbers. Okay, the next category is utilities. So again, this is new. When we put this together, again, working with other townships, they prorate a portion of their utilities in the building to GA. So that's what I put in, a third of the township bills into GA for all our utilities. So we should see a corresponding decline in township for this. Because these are, roughly, a third, of the building is used primarily for GA. Okay? General services is just postage and printing. Again, we haven't had those categories before. But like all the FARA, everything we send out, we use township funds. So, and anything we send out for comment or GA for utilities or rent to the landlord, we've used township funds. We haven't figured out a way how we're gonna track that right away. You know, from an actual standpoint, because we buy stamps and I don't count stamps. So we'll have to figure out a way to actually allocate it, based on maybe number of checks or something. But we added a category for postage for, mailings and certain things that we send out, the farmer's market, things for GA purposes. The next line is printing and media. So, Michelle, we put in a $10,000 budget to start to do some marketing of our GA programs, either through a newsletter or some sort of media to deter, so that people, again, we can get the word out of what Avon Township represents and the services in which it offers. But that number needs more work to it, but it's just a number to say, we want to do marketing so that people understand. And we know the cost of one flyer was $4,500 or $4,600, so we know it's expensive.
So it's all marketing. It could be social media, it could be, sponsoring our Easter egg hunt on Facebook. So for $25, we could get, you know, an area to come to our event. So yeah, that's a number we definitely have to, too high to work on.
Right, so it needs more, some more discussion, but we thought we'd throw it out there. Capital outlay, the last category. Again, as we talked with the assessors, technology is at a low here. Although I only budgeted $2,000, so we really need some clarity, because I think our monitors are all good. We have video and camera capability, I think, on all the computers. We just may need some new computers.
Right, I think that represents the two GA caseworkers employees who have dedicated systems. The number corresponds to the assessor's number of approximately $1,000 per user.
So I think I put 2,000 in, but obviously, Crystal, if you think we need more.
We'll get firmer numbers from our IT group.
Okay, and the next one is all the flood mitigation equipment. We put in $5,000. We spent that money to buy all that equipment this year with the grant money we got 2 years ago. And now we believe that we're gonna need, you know, repairs or fuel or some things, excuse me, to, cover those costs. I have to go get water.
I mean, it's probably a bit high this year because all the equipment is new. But we haven't had a disaster, knock on wood, we won't. But if we do, we have a lot of equipment, especially with our generators. People lose power, and they have a medical need. We're gonna be able to keep their whatever ventilation going or whatever situation they have. But if they take gas, we gotta make sure, people follow the directions and do all of that before we give it out to somebody else.
And make sure we get it back intact.
Intact, yes. So the flood mitigation is an amazing opportunity for us to do good in the community, but we don't know what's gonna happen with the,
Excuse me. Okay, so that's primarily, the budget. So it was a 377,000 budget last year, and this year we have 259. We think we're gonna spend somewhere about 250 this year. The only problem with this budget is, I put a little category in here. We've always been, the law changed. Our accumulation of funds used to be 1 time, and now they changed it to 2.5 times. So we've been eating down our reserves so that we didn't have to pay these taxes back. Right now, we only have, as of the end of January, roughly 148,000 or 146,000 in cash. If we only get somewhere about 161, okay, in levy, we spend 260, we're gonna bring our reserves down to less than $50,000. So that concerns me a little, because we go from roughly now until May to get another property tax distribution. So again, we put things in here, but we're gonna have to monitor GA spending on a regular basis. It's gonna be more important because we have drained our reserves. But it was drained consciously to try to avoid tax objection. We had no idea they were gonna take that number and put it back to 2.5 times. So that's only the consideration I have here is, if we do all these great things, okay? But at that point, then maybe some of the things we talked about, utilities, audit, maybe we change our mind, and I don't know how that works. So somebody may have to direct me there on if we put a budget together and then don't charge it, if that becomes an issue.
And we could reduce in the, in the youth, I mean, there's a lot of areas that we could reduce from too.
We may have to just control them.
Yeah, which is fine with me, because I said, your first budget sometimes is like your wants, and what your idea is, but then when you talk about it in front of a group of people, we're able to, change it a little bit. And again, this is my first year, so if we reduce some things and then next year we find that some ideas are successful or not, we either could put more money in it or not so much. So I am flexible for the most part. I just do want some money to be able to do community events, which is something I'm holding on to.
So we definitely are bringing down the spending compared to prior year budgets dramatically, and they make more sense. If they're a line item, they're making more sense on what we're trying to focus on. But we just always have to keep in play that we can't run out of funds. We don't want, I remember the just before I got here in August of 2017, they had to shut down the offices because they ran out of money, like sometime in the year before, and they were still talking about it. It wasn't, so was it when you were, I don't know, Crystal, I wasn't involved, so I just heard that rumbling, like, we have enough money? That we have enough money.
Yeah, we can talk about that some other day.
Okay, all right, so.
Yeah, with all due respect, it's getting to be about 9 o'clock, and I want to be cognizant of our chair's time and our members' time, realizing that the assessor went long. I don't have any questions on any of the information that's been shared with us. Do any of our fellow finance members have questions?
I just wish to make a very brief comment here. Anne Marie, I do appreciate you bearing with us here in this long night.
Yes, it's okay.
And this is a very decent budget proposal that we're seeing here so far. I know we're probably going to see some changes within the next 2 weeks with some things here, but I do appreciate your work on this, and along with the supervisor working on this budget as well. I think this is a very good example of what efficiency should be looking like, and for transparency reasons as well. I do appreciate it. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Welcome.
Okay, members' remarks.
This might be my last meeting. I have a conflict on the 22nd, so just looking back 2 years when we formed the committee, I'll celebrate 29 years of my professional career. One of the questions I ask clients in the meetings is, if we're having a conversation 3 years from now or 2 years from now, what has to have happened for you to feel good about your progress? So kind of reverse engineering that question, looking back 2 years, I couldn't imagine the progress that we've made. So getting a whole new board, some good leadership, forming finance committee, getting a hold of our numbers, it's been a highlight for me of my my service to the community, and it's been a real pleasure. So if I don't see anybody again, it's been you don't see me. You're actually quite see a little too much of me. I'll be running for Illinois State Senate, District 31. So yeah, so it's been an honor to serve you guys.
Adam, thank you for being a part of this finance committee and then stepping up to be chair. You made the transition for me easy because, we had a chance to get to know each other throughout the year, but also I think you've learned a lot about township.
Sure have. A lot from you guys, Crystal. Learned a lot. So
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Do we have any other members?
Yes, and likewise, my 2-year volunteer, community member is at term. So, so likewise, I mean, I've enjoyed it. I've been through a couple of administrations here, and it's been a valuable experience. And I think it's one that would be a great time to hand off to some other community member to have that opportunity as well. So, and I'm not sure exactly when that happens. I think it's somewhere around the budget end here or where.
And we'll put the word out too, that we're looking for new members to join our finance committee. Because I do want to maintain it, whether we change it a little bit now that there's a new board in place, we could definitely talk about that. But I cannot tell you how important it was to have this finance committee, especially the last 2 years. And this was my idea, to have a finance committee made up with trustees and community members. And I do want to continue that, and I'm hoping that more people come to our meetings. But now, it's just like now, you just go back to whoever you associate with.
I'm not going to be running for Senate.
But what I'm saying is, you have a better understanding of what township government is about and the budget and everything, and that's really what I wanted. I wanted community members just to be a part of it, and for our new finance committee members, thank you for continuing on with us. And hopefully you're going to stay with us for another year. Hopefully.
You signed on to it, so.
I'm just taking a look at our previous notes here, and it looks like the finance committee was established on February 19th of 2020, which means by February 22nd, the 2-year terms of many members will be expired. I would think that we might want to call a meeting by the 19th so that we can extend terms for a matter of a couple of months to finish the budgeting process. Just a recommendation. Obviously not something that we can do tonight. It's not on the agenda.
And the nice thing is we have even on the community side, I think we have a number of community members since the time that I even came on board. So it's nice that you have a more robust team.
And that's why also we have a 2-year commitment, unless you want to go longer, because this way, previously we'll have new people coming in and learning from the old, finance committee to the new members. And I know Michael wants to go to bed or do what Michael wants to do. Do we have any more members' remarks?
I appreciate everyone's detailed presentation. It's important, I think, that we look at these things and, as I always like to say, dot our I's and cross our T's. I don't have questions again, and thank you for everyone that's been a part of this with us. I'd like to motion to adjourn.
Thank you, everybody, for coming today.
Are there any objections to adjournment? We're adjourned at 8:59 p.m. by unanimous consent.
Under 2 hours, guys. Just-
we still have the highway to do.
Thank- thank-
But I think that's